One of the biggest challenges for this film was creating Beans, the character.
You have named me Chill Your Beans.
Wait, undo.
Thank you.
Undo.
I love my new name.
Although the character was entirely generated in post-production, we knew that we wanted to have a reference on set, mostly for our actor Midori Francis to act across from.
That's really accurate.
Because essentially every scene in this film is just her and this robot character. We worked with a prop master, Ariel Kaplan, who created a green screen version of the robot, which we lovingly named Green Beans. We dragged Green Beans around for 3 days on set, and he was basically like the stand-in for the robot character. So for every shot, we would get a version of it with Green Beans as a reference, and then we would get a clean plate, which we actually used for compositing. Everybody on the crew fell in love with Green Beans, and he worked perfectly, and then after the last shot on the last day, he tipped over and his head fell off. Once we got through principal photography, it was time to bring the robot character to life in the post-process. I was so lucky to have Sky Mahaffey as one of the producers on this project. She's an entirely self-taught visual effects artist. She taught herself how to use Blender during the pandemic, and she went from basically knowing how to make like a 3D donut to an entirely CGI character by the end of this film. Sky took the character sketches and modeled them in a 3D space in the software Blender. We went through a bunch of different versions of this model until we landed on one that we liked with all of the details. And once we had that, she rigged Beans for animation by creating an armature of individual bones to represent each of the robot's joints. And then once we had that model moving like we wanted, it was time to composite it into our footage. First, Sky built basically like a 3D version of the set in Blender, including specific placements of the lights that we used on set and the specific placement of the camera in 3D space so that the shot of the robot would exactly match the plate that it was being composited into. We also exported a specular layer out of Blender to give like the plastic, the shine that you would expect in a real 3D robot. So then we brought those Blender exports into After Effects, and that's where we did things like adding grain, blurring and sharpening. This whole animation process was really hand in hand with the edit. Every time that it blinked was a conversation. Where does it change its expressions? When does it move? How does it move? All of those things were choices that we were making throughout the post process.
You did it! You did it!
And then we worked with an amazing actor and comedian, Alex Songjia, who voiced the robot Beans. From pre-production to post-production, it really took a team and a lot of trial and error to make this film. If you haven't seen the film yet, you can check it out on my channel or on the sci-fi platform Dust.